What's up, guys? We are back for another episode of our Driver Focus. Today we are in Plainville, Connecticut with Stafford Speedway street stock driver and now limited late model driver for the 2023 season, Adrien Paradis. Thanks, Adrien, for joining us today.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. So obviously I am partnered with Andrew Molleur. That Andrew comes on these all the time with me, Andrew. So we're like a duo team now, you know?
Yeah, we're excited to be here with Adrien.
Yeah.
He's been around the racing scene for quite a while. And we're happy to be here to interview you in your beautiful garage here. So,
thank you.
First and foremost, we just wanted to talk about year in review, kind of how this past year went. What do you think went well? You know, maybe what do you think could have went better? And yeah.
Well, with all my seasons, this is probably the best one I've had with 2 victories and I think it was 13 straight top 5 finishes. We were in the points early on, and then had a stretch of bad luck early on in the season. Destroyed one race car, brought the backup out. Had a wheel bearing seize one race, never even made the feature. So kind of stuff that just happens and stuff out of our control. But I really can't complain about the season. It was a good season.
Yeah, and I watched, I've been up there, whether it was racing or the weeks I didn't race, and I went to Waterford. I still go up on a Friday night. Obviously, you finished 3rd in the point standings. I think you had 2 wins this year, so really good consistency out of you. It was fun to watch you, especially with the, the race choice on the back bumper, which is cool. So a lot of publicity. I know I paid attention to a lot of our drivers who got on the podium and thanking their sponsors, and it was real evident that you always thanked Race Choice. So really cool that I think that stuck out, which is it's kind of all part of thanking your sponsors and stuff like that. So it's good to see.
Yeah, and like Joe said, consistency. I know in 2020 you finished 7th in points, and then 2021 you finished 5th. This past year you finished 3rd in points. You got your first win last year at Stafford in the street stocks, right?
Yeah.
What was the feeling like to kind of like win your first race at Stafford? Because Stafford is such a as we all know it's like up there, right?
Yeah,
Stafford competition
Yeah.
is so tough. Everyone there is on their game every single week. There's so many good drivers in all divisions, whether it's street stocks, limiteds, late models, anything, SKs, and the publicity is the social media is great over there. So talk about like what the feeling was like getting your first win there.
It meant a lot to me. It probably meant more than my first win at the Bowl. Like you said, it's the premier track. I mean, if you could win there, you're doing something right. Like you said, the competition's very stout. And I don't care what division you're running there. It took us, we went there 2019, so it took us like 2.5 years before we got the first win. A lot of it, was driver. I was used to racing the Bowl one way, and it was a hard habit to break. But yeah, that win, I'll remember that one forever.
And Andrew, like you said, between the Bowl and Stafford, Andrew has wins in the SK division, multiple divisions at both tracks. So Andrew knows what it's like to have the different mindset and feeling of both tracks. It's 2 different ball games, but then again, you're getting into a race car, you're going to race. So going back a little bit, obviously this is the first time we've actually sat down and had some conversation with you. A little bit of your background. How did you get into racing, and how did you come to where you are today?
Well, I've always been into racing. Wanted to start at a young age, but just never could. Family didn't have the money to back me. That's, like it takes money to race.
Absolutely.
It was just by fluke. I had started helping the DePizas with Ted Christopher, and I believe it was 2013 at the Bowl. The car next to us here, he was building for a friend of his, and the car just fell into place. Things had changed in my life where I wasn't traveling as much for work. I was home, so I spoke with my wife, and we went racing.
That's the number one approval right there.
Yeah, she supports me 100%.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely important to have your significant other supporting you in what you do. So, you know, you touched on the pieces a little bit. You kind of worked with Ted Christopher a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, most people in the New England area, short track scene know, you know, Ted Christopher, what he meant to everyone in this area. So just touch on a little bit like what Ted meant to you. I know you have a lot of pictures of him on the wall over there. Talk about what he meant to you and working with him was like, and kind of, you know, being in the same pit area with him.
Yeah.
Talk about what that was like.
Well, watching, you know, growing up, going to the races and stuff, you know, I was never a Ted fan when I was younger. I always, you know, believe it or not, I used to root for Rick Fuller up at Riverside Park. But, you know, once, you know, I got to know Ted and, you know, a lot of people only know the race side Ted, but, you know, outside of racing, Ted was a great guy. You know, at first he didn't give me a lot of pointers, but towards the end, you know, the last year and a half before he passed, you know, he would, if I wasn't in the pit area, he'd have someone come get me so that I can put his window net up, and in that, you know, 4 seconds or 10 more than that, but 30 seconds, he would ask me, how's the car going? You know, I say, oh, it's you know, a little tight coming off. Are you sure? Yeah, I think I'm sure. He goes, I think you better look on entry. I think your car's not handled on entry, and that's why you're tight coming off. So he would give me little pointers. The next week, we might not talk about the race car. We might talk about, you know, hey, how's the family going? And, you know, how's things at the firehouse? So it was always different. I never went to him looking for pointers on how to drive. You know, I just kind of let him, you know, talk to me when he wanted to give me a tip. You know, I didn't want to bother him.
Right. And
you know,
I mean, that's just all part of it, racing. I mean, growing up racing, we obviously the pictures on the wall, it's just amazing. Looking at the dates of them, you can't believe it's that long ago. But,
Right.
you know, not taking stuff for granted for so long. I mean, I can remember years ago, the pointers, not just my dad would give me, but all friends or, you know, competitors, even competitors at the track, you know,
Yeah.
giving you pointers. So, you know, it's cool to see, you know, all the way from, like you said, 2012, 2013, all the way up to now,
Yeah.
how we can sit down and remember this stuff that we learned.
yeah. I mean, something in racing that when I got into it, I never expected. You know, whether it was the Bowl or Stafford, you know, we go out on the track, we want to, you know, rip each other's head off racing, trying to get that checkered flag. But, you know, in the pits, if you need something, you know, there's like 4 guys ready to help you out. And, you know, I wasn't expecting that when I first went to the Bowl, but, you know, you built a family, which, you know, we're all part of it. You know, I wasn't expecting that. You know, I'm expecting, you know, this guy's my enemy, but
Right.
it's not like that.
No,
you know?
racing's a big family, like
Yeah.
you said. I mean, there are guys that, you know, you go out there and get in a scuffle with, you know, last week and the next week, you know, you're
Yeah.
scrambling to fix the right front of the car, and you just tore it off in a heat race, and they're over there jumping in, pushing you out of the way, trying to
Yeah.
help you fix stuff up. And,
Yeah.
you know, that's the thing that some people don't understand about racing is, you know, everyone, like you said, tough competitors on the track, but,
Yeah.
you know, off the racetrack, I mean, everyone wants to see everyone get out and race and not,
Yeah.
you know, sit on the sidelines.
Exactly.
So it's definitely cool to, you know, racing is like a really, you know, big family, kind of a dysfunctional family, but
Yeah,
but a big
yeah.
family. So you know, like we talked about, working with Ted was pretty cool. Obviously,
Yeah.
you know, when we lost Ted, that was a tough day. I
Oh,
know
yeah.
I was at the bowl that day. Where you were at the bowl that day as
yeah,
well.
I was there, yeah.
That was a tough day for all of us, obviously. You know, talk about kind of how that day was for you. I know for me that was, you know, obviously really tough because I grew up watching Ted. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people grew up watching Ted. I only got to see him towards the end of his career, but you were kind of working with the team there. So talk about that day a little bit.
Yeah, so as everyone knows, he was headed to Riverhead for a tour race, and you know, throughout the day, I think it was that day that I think it was Dylan in the car, Dylan Izzo, and you know, he was turning some fast times, you know, and you know, I went out and did my thing and came back from I think it was just after our qualifying race, and they were loading the car up, and I'm like, what's going on? And Doug had said, yeah, we're not racing. I'm like, what do you mean you're not racing? You're like top 3 in practice. And he he looked at my mother who was there and said, well, you might as well tell him now. They didn't want to tell me until after
the race.
I did my feature.
Yeah.
So that's when my mother had told me that Ted had passed in a
Yeah.
plane crash. And it was hard to get back in the car, but
Yep.
you know, anybody that truly knows Ted, you know, that's what he would want us all to do.
Right.
You know, that night I was doing everything I could possibly do to get into victory lane that night. I finished second that night to Al Stone, which everybody knows Al Stone's one fierce
hell of a
competitor
driver,
at the
yeah.
Bull. He's very hard to beat, but he was going for his 50th win. So, you know, he was shooting for that, and then, you know, probably to honor Ted as well. So, yeah, you know what? Second, I can't complain.
Yeah.
You know, it was a tough night, though. You know, I don't think it really sunk in until after that night was over and the next day.
And you were there. Were you there that night too?
I wasn't, so I think I had a family party or something that day, but you know, my friend called me, I can't remember who, somebody at the track, and told me, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me, like, you can't, that, are you
Something
serious?
you don't even want
Yeah.
to believe it. Still to
Yeah.
this day, I just can't even
Right,
like
yeah.
process like.
And I
wow.
went on Facebook, like, after he called me and told me, and I just saw, you know, this can't be real, like, are you kidding me? Like, everyone said it, but didn't say his name, because they
Yeah.
don't want to, and I'm like, yeah, it's real.
And the
So,
buzz in the pit area that day was unbelievable. You could just kind of tell something was going on
Yeah.
that day. The drivers' meeting, you know, it was just you could just tell something was going on. And then when they told us all, it was tough. But it's funny you say, I finished second that day as well, and in the SK Light, and then the SK rolled around, and with like a very handful of laps to go, like I think it might have been 13 laps to go. There was like fog rolled over
Fog
the track,
rolled
and they
in heavy.
canceled the race, and it was just like
Yeah.
a total like movie like
Yeah.
script. Like
I think
it was-
Todd Owen won that.
Yeah.
SK,
Were you in the
yeah.
SK race that night?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so-
I was fortunate enough to race with him for a couple races, but he'll obviously miss. But that's really cool that you got to work with him and
Yeah.
you know the guys over there. But moving on from Ted a little bit, you know this season coming up, right? We're gonna kind of switch it up for you a little bit. You're
Yeah.
going racing limited late model, so a new
Yeah.
division for you. Talk about how excited you are to try something new.
I'm very excited. You know, I always like trying to move up and get better at anything I do. So I know I'm going to have a learning curve in front of me. You know, street stock's not the same as a limited late model, but I'm hoping to grasp it a hell of a lot quicker than it took me in that thing 2.5 years to get a win. You know, I'm just going to look to be, you know, consistently finish, put the car in the box every night, and you know, if we're there at the end to grab a victory, then you know that's what we're going to try and do. But I got some good people behind me, and you know I can't do it without them.
Yeah, well, definitely. I would like to ask. Obviously, you've had it seems like really good success, a lot of consistency. You know, getting your
Yeah.
first wins and stuff, moving into a new division.
Yeah.
Who has been a part of you that you haven't mentioned yet, and maybe you want to give a shout out to for the help for the 2023 season?
Bar none, my crew chief Joe Brockett. You know, that dude's a wizard when it comes to fender cars. Without him, I wouldn't be racing. You know, if you've gone through it, you know, there's a big learning curve. You know, he kind of shortens that gap where you're not just pouring money out, trying different things. So yeah, without him, I wouldn't be able to do it. And then my crew, which consists of my stepfather, my sister, and a friend that I graduated with, her daughter. So you know, it's just 3 of us in the pits.
It's awesome.
So.
Well, you like to see, you know, small crews
Yeah.
get a lot of stuff done. You know, which is really cool
Yeah.
to see. Big crews around the pit area doesn't always mean, you know, you're going to get a lot of stuff done,
Yeah,
and that's what
very true.
counts.
That's
Yeah,
true.
everybody knows their job, they do it,
Yep.
and it gets done. You're not tripping over, you know, other people because, you know, everybody's trying to do something. So it works, you know. I would need more if we were like in a late model where you got a pit or SKs, but I'm not looking that far ahead.
Yeah, I'm excited to you know, see a new
Yeah.
car this year. Obviously, you ordered a brand new body for it through Race Choice, so that was cool to see. Hopefully, we can get some pictures and show it when it's complete.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, That's
It's
awesome.
pretty sick body.
Yeah.
It looks
The
good.
white looks cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And the cool thing about those cars, right, is they're not too much different from a street stock, right? Like they're
No.
kind of run the similar kind of tires, right?
They're actually a harder comp.
Are they a little bit harder?
Same as what you're running on the late
Okay.
models.
Yeah, no, it's they're still sliding around a little
Oh,
bit,
yeah.
but bigger. Is it a bigger motor? Is it what's the difference?
No, it's the same motor, really.
Yeah.
Same motor, but we can do more with the geometry of the front end. It's got a locked rear versus the open rear that the street stocks run. Different gear ratio. But the big thing, I think, is going to be all the geometry that we can change in the front end.
Now, is the chassis different than the street stock, or is it similar?
No, it's similar.
Yep.
Yeah. It's,
So it's kind of stuff that you guys are already familiar with at the track.
Yeah. The big change is that we were allowed front jacking bolts, where in the street stocks you're only allowed spring cups. So it makes making adjustments 10 times easier. You don't got to rip half the front end apart and turn a spring cup. You just put a ratchet on it and you're done.
Yeah. And you guys have same amount of laps, right? Is it?
Yeah, same amount of laps.
So it'll be a lot of the same, but at the same time, a lot of not the
It's
same.
it's gonna handle different just because
Right.
of the locked rear and
Of course.
I think it's 1 inch lower ride height if I remember correctly.
And now the first racing in Connecticut is coming up just about a month and a half away. Icebreaker at Thompson's the first and second day of April 1st and 2nd. So are you planning on, I know when we got here, were you planning on running and taking the street stock out a little bit?
Yeah, the plan is to try and do the icebreaker with the street stock. The only thing that would prevent that is if I don't get that other car ready.
Right.
My main focus is going to be on
Getting it ready for the
Stafford.
Sizzler.
Yeah.
And I think there's an open practice probably, usually the week
Yeah.
before the Sizzler, so
you
you'll be
know,
able to shake it down and make adjustments. So
Yeah, and we have a scheduled track rental too already.
good.
So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Good.
So that'll be good. You'll kind of run a couple of races in the street stock hopefully this year, and
Yeah.
still get back in that, which will be a lot of fun, right? Kind of
Oh yeah.
going back to running a
Yeah,
couple races.
I wish
in
we
that.
could run both at Stafford. I'd probably try and do that,
Yeah.
but I get it.
Well, now's the time before we, start. Anything else you wanna touch on? Or?
No, I mean, I'd like to thank my sponsors. Yeah, CSB Communications, JSB Motorsports, obviously RaceChoice.com, Laser Crazy, DNF Wraps, Smedley Crane, and Paula's $5 Paparazzi.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to begin the 2023 season as much as you are. I obviously in a new division, new car, but same track. It's still crazy exciting. I mean, I can remember moving up from Bandoleros, as Andrew could back me up on this, Bandoleros to Legends
Right.
to I didn't do SK Lights, but SK Lights, SKs. It's just a different feeling, even though it's just a new feeling when you're going to the racetrack. So a lot to look forward to this year for you.
And one thing I did want to mention was, now you're moving from the street stock to the limited, new group of drivers to race against, right? You're kind of, is it going to be tough to readjust to, when you're racing in a division, regularly, you kind of know, okay, this guy, he's probably
what they're gonna
aggressive.
do.
He's aggressive. He's
Yeah.
gonna, he's gonna move me out of the way, or he's gonna, chop me in the corner. So
Yeah.
now, is it gonna be tough for you to learn, the new group of drivers? You think, or you think you'll be able to be?
I mean,
alright?
I don't know if it'll be tough, but it's something I do got to learn. But you're right. In the street stocks, you kind of know who's going to
Yeah.
do what what their car normally does. If someone comes in low, but they're going to get tight in the center, you can get under them.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I got to learn that with the other drivers and what their tendencies are. But I think I'll grasp it quick.
So, running limited this year in 2023, what do you think the future holds? Do you know what the future kind of holds for you? Anything you want to accomplish in your racing career in the coming years?
The one thing I was always hoping was a track championship. Moving up past this division, I don't know. That's not really. I'm not looking that far ahead, and things in my life. Like I said, when you first walked in, I'm deputy chief of the fire department. I'll be in that position for another 6 years. After that, I'll probably become the chief of the fire department. So I think that's probably when I'll hang my hat racing, because I can't do both time-wise. You guys know how much racing takes.
Right.
It takes just as
A lot of
much
hours
with
in
a
the shop.
firehouse. So, hey, somebody's out there wants to put me in a car and I don't have to wrench on this,
Yeah, why not, right?
you know, I'll do it. But, you know, I don't have the name like Molleur and, you know, Ted Christopher and, you know, but, you know, it may happen, but, you know, we're just looking at just the late model right now, and, you know, that's what I can afford to do now.
Good. Yeah. Well, we're excited to see pictures of that thing when it's done. How about color scheme? What are we doing with it? We're gonna leave it white? We're gonna go red like the street stock?
No, I have an idea, but I've never done the same car twice,
Right.
so I'm gonna leave it as a surprise.
We'll leave it as a surprise.
Okay,
So,
we're looking forward to the
well,
surprise.
what we know is Race Choice will be on the car.
Yeah.
So
Still going to be number 19, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It'll still be 19. I was thinking of changing it. I was thinking of trying to grab 77 because, as you can see on the wall over here, that was my father's other number. But at the time when I started, it wasn't available. 19 was the number of his modified at Plainville Stadium when he first bought it. So he only ran it for 1 year.
And your father raced a little bit.
Yeah, and then he became more of a car owner. He had a couple drivers that used to drive for him, but yeah, he only drove. Back then they called it the novice. That's where he did most of his driving. He didn't actually drive the modified.
Okay. So, and where was that? What?
Plainville Stadium.
Plainville.
Yep.
way before our time, Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I vaguely remember. I only
Yeah.
went to probably less than a handful of races that I could remember, and
How
I'll
nice
be
would that-
50 this year.
How nice would that have been if that was still around though?
Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah.
I heard it was one
It
of
was
the
a
best
quarter
tracks.
mile flat though, but
Even Danbury, right? I mean,
Yeah.
some of these
Yeah.
places just imagine having 5 racetracks in
yeah,
Connecticut.
'cause you had West Haven,
There were
Savin Rock.
Yeah.
Um,
That would have been crazy. A lot of
yeah.
racetracks. So,
yeah.
but yeah. So one thing I did want to touch on before we wrap up is you talked about working for the fire department, right? Is everyone that works with you, are they supportive of your racing? Do they know that you race? Do you
Oh,
like to
yeah.
talk about it, or
Oh,
do they
yeah.
come to the races?
Yeah. I don't know if you remember last year, I think I finished 3rd, and I had probably, 45 people in the picture.
It's
Wasn't
awesome.
a win, but it was all people I worked for my 9 to 5 job.
Yep.
But yeah, some of the firemen come out, they'll come out and maybe a group of 8, we still have a town to protect, so it's not like 40 guys can come to the track, there'll be no one back in town, but yeah, they all support me, and
And you get times where you're in the shop working on the car, and all of a sudden you get a call, and you got to kind of go out.
oh yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah. Is that frustrating, or you're just kind of
No, I mean,
happy to do it?
yeah, I like helping people,
Work's work, good job's a job.
Yeah.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
yeah, so.
Well, we appreciate you joining us today. Like we said, we're really excited to watch you this season. I know Andrew's ready to get back in the car as well.
Yeah.
We do a lot of live streaming on Wednesdays. We talk about where we're going, the upcoming drivers we're doing interviews on. Obviously, we've done Keith Rocco in the past. We've done Jake Garcia. We just did NASCAR truck driver. So a lot of cool things coming with Race Choice. Happy to be a part of it, and happy to watch Adrien Paradis this year. Look out for him at Stafford Speedway in the limited late model division.
Thank you for letting us in your shop
Yeah,
to
no
come and
problem.
interview you. We really appreciate it. Thank you for your hospitality, and good luck this year.
Thank you.